of skin, safe inside this ticking clock, holding my small breath before you drag me in. No sunlight on my face, just the void and the grace. Leave the door locked tight, keep me from the light. Don't wake me from this holy sleep. The silence is a vow I want to keep. Don't give me eyes to watch the beauty rot. Don't give me blood to feel the coming clot. I never asked for bones that break. I never asked for breaths to take. Let me stay here where the pain can't grow. The kindest thing you do is letting go.
Not too often that I come across a video on YouTube that I actually want to make a response to. But when I find a video called "This World Fucking Sucks," I'm going to at least give it a listen. But to say it was disappointing is an understatement, of course. They're making a response to another video, so I'm going to respond to both. And do a response drawing as well. So please enjoy the drawing time-lapse and some clips from some unfortunate videos. As some of you probably know, I'm a big film buff, and working in the movie industry was a bucket list thing for me, which I finally did accomplish in my career. But of course, everything has its dark side. For example, the Hollywood executive I worked for was Harvey Weinstein. If you don't know who Harvey Weinstein is, just look him up. He's currently living at Rikers Island. And the movies I worked on were box office bombs, so nobody saw them anyways. But at least it's something I can say I was able to do from Detroit without having to move to Hollywood. So that's why some of the YouTube content I enjoy are videos about the film industry, movie reviews, and especially genre movies like science fiction, fantasy films. My mother was always into the behind-the-scenes gossip about movie stars in Hollywood, so she probably got me addicted to it when I was young. We always watched the Oscars together every year. And I dreamed of being on the show and taking her as my plus one. It's not easy to find someone online who actually has similar taste to me. I came to realize that the majority of people have bad taste. But then there comes a time when you watch a video from someone and you just think, what the fuck is wrong with them? And it usually happens when these people go outside of their lane and try to talk about something important like ethics. And you realize that they're pretty dumb and don't have any idea what they're even talking about. The subject of today's video is a YouTuber who goes by the name Nerdrotic, a combination of nerd and neurotic, who has over 1.2 million subscribers on his main channel, and many other subscribers on his other channels. And this is from his superhero-based series called Friday Night Tights. It's like a Zoom show. I don't know why they decided to go out of their lane and start discussing abortion, but they did. And as you guys know, I like responding to secular arguments against abortion. You can see from the screen grab that these guys are obviously conservatives. You don't even have to listen to anything they say to know that. Here you have a American flag, American flag, American flag, Union Jack, so he's basically a British Trumper. So I guess you could also call them anti-woke YouTubers too, because they talk a lot about the leftist liberal Hollywood output. I suppose I would call myself anti-woke in a way because I'm anti-bigotry, and racism and sexism are often repackaged as diversity, equity, and inclusion, when it's just another type of exclusion, not inclusion. I call it diverse shitty because it makes movies and TV shows really shitty. And, when you cast someone who's clearly wrong for the role, just takes you out of the movie. And you can't have inclusion without exclusion, so basically Hollywood is sexist against men and racist against Caucasians. That's not something Martin Luther King would agree with, casting someone because of their gender or their skin color alone. It's not judging them by the content of their character or their talent. I've always hated token casting, and it's just at such an extreme level now. Like casting a black woman to play Anne Boleyn. A lot of the Hollywood output is not even watchable anymore. And don't get me started on smug liberals who eat meat. But that said, I also hate Republicans, and especially religious Republicans, for obvious reasons. I know this guy in the upper middle is a Christian of some kind, but what I really latched onto was Gary, who is Nerdrotic's real name, on YouTube said he's not a Christian, but just because someone says they're not a Christian doesn't mean they're not some kind of religious nut. Like, I found out from another video that he believes that aliens are real, so he's a UFO conspiracy theorist, which is not quite as dumb as being religious, but it's almost as dumb. So just because he doesn't believe in Jesus doesn't mean that he doesn't believe in Xenu or Odin or something else, who knows. I mean, maybe he's a Scientologist. He doesn't talk about it, but he doesn't seem like an atheist to me. But he's trying to make a secular case for why abortion is wrong, and I'm just going to tear that apart because it makes no sense. So this video is a response to a response. They are responding to a YouTuber named Jesse Ridgway. I can't help that name just reminds me of Gary Ridgway, the Green River Killer. But anyways, recently he and his wife aborted their pregnancy because it had a 95% chance of having Down syndrome. So obviously they did the right thing, although they should never have gotten pregnant in the first place. There's been a lot of conservative religious hatred towards them because they aborted it, and it just makes no logical sense at all. I'm really kind of just blown away by these conservatives. I mean, I get the religious delusion, but for people who try to explain it outside of their religion, their arguments I just can't understand it at all. If ever there was a reason to get an abortion, this would be it. So this is a movie reviewer, someone who really should be staying in his lane, reviewing movies. He doesn't seem to really know much about anything else, who's going into a lane they know nothing about. And he's using his personal experience to justify imposing harm. And to me, this was just one of the most disgusting videos I've seen in a while. And it's a great example of breeder entitlement.
Hey there, Joey's Joel Palmachance here, and we're having a baby! Yay! There's a Down syndrome chance for the baby, but it's like 95 out of 100% chance.
I've never understood procreation, even without the ethical implications of it. Like this guy, who's a famous YouTuber, marries a pretty young girl with a nice fit body, clear skin, shiny hair, pretty face, and the first thing he decides to do is put a kid in her guts, destroying her body permanently. I mean, blasting her hips apart, blowing out her vagina, shredding her stomach with stretch marks. I mean, what the hell is the point of that? You want to make your wife sexually unattractive to you, and not only that, if they get divorced, then she's going to be a single mom and be unattractive to other men who otherwise would have been interested in her.
One more story that's a YouTuber. Jesse Ridgway. Jesse Ridgway has made some news over the last few days. I guess I'd never heard of the guy before in my life. What's the name of his channel?
Juggernuggets.
What's saying that again?
McJuggernuggets.
Okay. Got to say that slowly. You're probably getting a little trouble.
Well, I've heard of that name before. I'm trying to remember if there was any
He's been on YouTube under McJuggernuggets for a really long time. Some old school dumb troll sketch videos and stuff like that. I have no idea what he's been doing recently, to be honest with you.
He did what the hell is even that? What the hell is even that?
So that was him?
That was him. Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, he's a troll, right? Basically, he's a troll.
Like a comedy sketch, whatever.
Like a comedy sketch. Nothing is real what he does. It's supposed to be presented as real. And again, I've never heard of him, but
old school him, yes.
Yes. And once that joke ran dry, he kind of lost relevance or whatever. He's got like 4 million subs.
I've never heard of this YouTuber either, even though he has millions of subscribers. He's one of those people who started making videos when he was a kid at the beginning of YouTube history. And 12 years later, he's still around, mostly doing, stupid video game prank type of worthless crap. And of course, he's going to mine his personal life for clicks. He's grown up doing that. I've watched his channel and he looks like he exploits his whole family for views, but this isn't a video about those reasons not to procreate. This is about the serious ethical implications and how we should be grateful now that we have these in utero tests that we can find out if the kid is going to come out broken. I'm sorry to use this religious word, but it's a blessing. And the religious people on the right have to be insane who are actually against testing for retardation and other medical problems.
So he has been documenting apparently pregnancy with girlfriend or wife or whatever. And it came out a couple of days ago that the baby is going to have Down syndrome, so they aborted it. And then the thing is, he made a video.
This video was recorded a month ago, by the way.
Yeah, which was recorded a month ago. But then we got the result in the last couple of days of like what they're going to do. The video was like, we have a lot to think about, and they aborted the baby. And he's getting fucking crushed.
Yeah,
absolutely crushed. And you know what? I went off too. I was kind of pissed. Now, a little bit pissed. And admittedly, father of a special needs child, and no child is an inconvenience. And the thing is, a lot of people do this, like with Down's kids. I forgot the percentage is insanely high, right? And Down's kids are some of the most happiest people in the fucking world, by the way.
Look at drunk 3PO.
Awesome.
I know.
So there you have it. He has a personal investment in this, and he's going to mention also that he's adopted, so he can try and justify his enormously stupid, selfish decision of procreating and being anti-safe medical abortion. He doesn't say what special needs means. It's quite the big umbrella term, so there's many things that could mean. I tried to find out what his kid has, but I assume it's autism. That's generally what people say when they say special needs, but it is what it is. Kids with severe autism, mental retardation, and Down syndrome can't live a normal life. They're going to need support and caregiving. They can't live alone, they can't get a normal job, and they can't drive a car. So, in other words, they can't survive or feed themselves. If they're left on their own, they would die. And these parents who bring broken children into the world know that they're not going to be around forever to take care of that kid. So they're going to bring a helpless person into the world and then die on them and leave them to their own devices, where they'll probably end up in a nursing home of some kind. And wow, that's just so noble of them. Would you like to be dumber than everyone else around you, all while being aware that you are dumber and slower than everyone else around you? Would you like to be born without hands? Would you like to be born with an ugly face? These are things that you would want for yourself? I mean, this guy in the middle is Call Me Chato, and he's actually a television executive from the 80s, 90s. So I do like his takes on entertainment because he was actually in the industry. And he has taught me some things about storytelling. And he just doesn't seem to fit in with these right-wingers. Like, you can just look at his face. He's a smaller YouTuber, so maybe he's just glad to be on this panel, but you can tell that he's not laughing along with these other idiots, so I think he's smarter than they are, but he's just not willing to speak up. I wish I was on this panel. Maybe I should become a movie reviewer YouTuber, because what they're saying is not just insane, it's insensitive, disrespectful, and illogical. And then they make the highly offensive cliche that people with Down syndrome and all retarded people are happy to be retarded. I mean, how do you know? Have you ever been retarded? Have you actually sat down and talked to people who are disabled? No, they avoid those people because they don't actually care about them. They don't know what the fuck they're even talking about. I mean, really? You think your kid is happy all the time? Have you ever asked a person with Down syndrome about that? Having Down syndrome doesn't make someone happy. They're just trying to cope that their life isn't filled with struggle so they can feel better about imposing life on them. They're just trying to lie to themselves that retarded people don't have a life filled with struggle so they can feel better about imposing that life on them. It's like saying that all children are happy. I mean, there's no evidence for that statement. I don't remember myself being especially happy as a child. I remember being afraid a lot and unsure of the future. And I think that if I was disabled, I'd be even more afraid and uncertain about what my future would be like.
Anya wants to know how you feel about the assumption that people with Down syndrome are always happy.
We have the same emotions and feelings as everyone else. We're happy, we're sad, we're excited. We have our off days.
I get sad, I get angry, I get mad, and when I get angry because I eat.
At first, in freshman year, I felt isolated and jealous of what everyone has. These people are just doing stuff that I wish I could do. Pursuing a higher level of education, doing more, pursuing a career, and I felt like I couldn't.
I'm against it. I'm 100% against it. You have a kid, you take care of it, and the kid is not an inconvenience, and you might find out that it actually added to your life
and other people's lives.
And other people's lives.
So what they're talking about is this kid having instrumental value, like a dog or something. Like it'll bring joy to your own life and other people's lives. So this is what someone who's into deontological or Kantian ethics would say is using someone as a means to an end, which they consider to be unethical because it's treating them as a tool for their own gain and without consent. As a utilitarian, I would say that it's an unethical argument also because you're not thinking about them or their well-being. You're thinking about their effects on others, and you're using them as some kind of instrument. But really, this is just more cope. They're just really grasping at straws to justify being anti-abortion and forcing people to suffer and die and to suffer more than a normal person.
And kept that kid alive who didn't have a choice when they were little babies.
Oh, where to even begin with that statement? He just said it right there. This kid didn't have a choice. You dragged him here and made him a second-class person. They're always going to be second-class. They're never going to be respected. They're never going to be admired. People are nice to them out of feeling sorry for them. They're never going to be able to get their dream girl, their dream job, none of that shit. We all know that you can't ask them if they want to come into the world as a retarded person, so you have to decide for them. And this couple made the appropriate choice. A 95% chance. That means the kid is going to have Down syndrome. I mean, that's evil to bring a kid who you know is going to be broken into the world. For example, take a look at this clip I found online of another mother who acted like a selfish sadist.
I actually knew when I was pregnant with him that it was like a 50-50 chance that he would come out with his genetic condition. Come on, little bud. Amari has a condition called NF type 1, which is incurable, and which causes tumors and causes tumors throughout his skeletal and nervous system. So it just caused a lot of problems throughout his body, which the growths can come up anywhere on his body. Amari has one of the worst cases that you can get.
I feel no sympathy for this mother at all. 50% odds are terrible odds. If you had a 50% chance that you knew going out today for dinner was going to lead to your horrible death in a car crash, you'd probably stay home, right? That would probably be a sensible thing to do. What she did was pure evil because she was not only risking her future, but look at what she did to this little boy. It's completely incurable what's done to his face, and he's going to die young because of it. She made a little boy who looked like a monster, but she's the real monster. And clearly there's no father in the picture either, which is just another reason why I don't understand why these women have kids with men who are not going to stick around. Just doing that, even if the kid turned out normal, is still a shitty thing to do. And again, they screw themselves over because someone like me, as a divorced man, even if I wasn't turned off by the ethics of procreation, I'd have no interest in dating a single mom. You know, too much baggage, too many liabilities. So these women who have kids with guys who aren't fit to be fathers are just shooting themselves in the foot if they ever want to get married again someday. You can just hear the sadness in this kid's voice. Every day has got to be horrific for him. Everybody else looks normal, and they are shocked and horrified by looking at him. You know, he's only a little kid, but he probably wishes he was dead, because I would if I were him. We've all seen the movie The Elephant Man, right? He lived a tragic, horrible existence, and this woman just gave birth to another elephant man for no reason. She had ample warning from scientific testing, but she chose to ignore that warning.
So you could continue your YouTube career or fucking or whatever and not be responsible. So, you know, I know people have, that's my, listen, I'm adopted, so I'm against abortion. And not in the Christian sense. You know, I'm not a Christian, but I'm absolutely pro-life.
What he just said makes absolutely no sense. They did the responsible thing. What the fuck are you even talking about? The irresponsible thing would have been to bring a kid into the world who had a 95% chance of having Down syndrome, which is almost 100%. That kid is never going to be able to contribute anything to society. They're just going to be a burden, and they're not going to feel good about being a burden. Even though he just said he's not a Christian, that's a very Christian pro-life thing to say. And then again, he's taking this personally because he has a broken kid, or whatever a special needs kid is, and he's adopted. Okay, well, you know, retarded kids have a much lower chance of getting adopted. Does he realize that? According to a massive 14-year study presented by the American Academy of Pediatrics, analyzing over 3.2 million children in foster care, children diagnosed with an intellectual disability or physical disability were significantly less likely to achieve a permanent discharge. That means adoption or guardianship, compared to children without these diagnoses. Children with these disabilities are statistically more likely to leave the foster care system by emancipating, which means aging out at 18 without a family, or being transferred to adult institutional care. Data from child welfare registries show that children with severe medical conditions or established physical disabilities wait twice as long on average to be placed into an adoptive family compared to typically developing children. Even when an official diagnosis hasn't been made yet, young children who are under 30 months old, who show signs of developmental uncertainty, experience significant delays in adoption because prospective parents frequently hesitate to adopt without knowing the future scope of care. Children with severe disabilities are often more likely to be in foster care system in the first place because their parents don't have the financial needs to give them the care, which is required, which is basically 24/7 care. I remember when I was getting more seriously into ethics and activism around 2009, I started seriously thinking about what could I do positively in the world with what's left of my life. So I looked into kidney donation, which I then decided not to do because, one, it could seriously jeopardize my health if something happened to my one good kidney, and the other thing is you don't get to choose your donor, and I certainly do not want to help a meat eater continue their reign of terror on animals. That would be counterproductive to what I'm trying to do. And of course, as anyone who's been following this channel knows, I have adopted 4 dogs in my life, and probably will again, and maybe other animals, but I also at one time looked into human adoption, just because I knew there were a lot of needy kids out there. And when I went on the adoption websites, this is what I found, at least in the Detroit area.
He loves joking around, anything, different noises. If he hears like a weird sound or, that cracks him up. He just brings joy to just about everybody, right? Everywhere we go, all little kids love him. So I think my favorite thing about him is that he's usually really happy all the time. It makes you smile.
Lots and lots of retarded kids, because nobody wants them. And not only that, but retarded black kids, because Detroit is over 80% black. But the suburbs are mostly white, and white people usually want to adopt healthy white babies. It's just how it is. It's just a reality. I'd find lots of videos like this one, and unfortunately this adoption agency is spreading that same myth that retarded kids are always happy. Of course, they're not showing him when he's having a bad day. Of course not. They want this kid to get adopted. They're going to show him at his best and not his worst. And this is the best he has to offer. It really takes a special person to adopt a kid like this because he needs day and night care. But this just shows that these idiots have no idea what they're talking about. Most of these kids are not going to get adopted. They're going to be in the foster care system for most of their life, and then they're going to be in a nursing home, and that'll be it.
It would be tough to be put in that position, I suppose, to know that that was something that was like possible with your child, but it doesn't matter. It's disgusting to publicize it, to expect people to like be okay with your decision, because just because this test came through does not mean that that child would be born that way, right?
Yep.
There are instances in which the people have gotten these tests back and they prepared to have a child with Down syndrome and the child was fine.
Right. Or they come out like Ryan.
Yeah, exactly. Right. You never know. look, some days I wish I was fucking killed in the womb. Honestly, it made my life easier. But we're not talking about me.
He's back.
We're not talking about me. It's truly.
That's why you
it
have me
feels
on.
like pure evil. The people that are like celebrating it and pushing it forward, and you never know what's going to happen in life, man. And sometimes challenges come at you unexpectedly. I believe that those challenges happen for a reason, even though we don't understand it sometimes.
Okay, sorry to even quote this Christian guy, but he just made my point for me. And it's so ironic he doesn't seem to see that, yeah, I also wish I'd been killed in the womb. And not just sometimes, but all the fucking time. I didn't need to be here, and I didn't need to go through a divorce. I didn't need to put my dogs to sleep. I didn't need to be my mother's caretaker, and I didn't need to suffer. And yes, exactly, you don't know what the fuck is actually going to happen in life, and that's why you always err on the side of safety, especially when you're talking about someone else's life. As Emendam always says, procreation is like going to Las Vegas with someone else's life savings and risking it all on the roulette wheel. Who thinks that's ethical to do that? To take someone's credit card out of their pocket and go and spend it, because you think you know better, even though you're probably going to lose. The odds are stacked against you, and yet you roll the dice for someone else. These nut jobs always say everything happens for a reason. No, it fucking doesn't. We know it doesn't happen for a reason. Good people like my mother get Parkinson's disease and suffer for all the good they did for other people. They get Parkinson's disease, so fuck you, asshole.
To make the decision is one thing. To record yourself making the decision, to publicize you making the decision, and expect people to clap and cheer for you as if you're fucking stunning and brave for killing your child at 21 weeks?
Oh, whatever to this. People do stupid shit for clicks all the time, and if they had gone through with having the kid and filmed it, then these tools would be totally fine with that, apparently. Then they would be calling them brave for bringing a Down syndrome kid into the world. The reason Christians are against abortion is because they think that sperm and egg meeting was God's will. Well, why wouldn't it be God's will that they got the abortion? And why would it be God's will to give that kid Down syndrome? You know, they don't even think about these questions. It's easier to be blind followers of faith rather than actually think. And again, this is what these religious people do, is they lie, and they say that terminating an embryo that's not conscious in any way is like killing someone, like an adult person. They're not killing anybody. You know, and what do parents do? They create life that is destined to die. There is 100% certainty that that kid's going to die someday, whether they die at 10 or 30 or 50 or 90, does it really matter? They put their death in motion. They are the killers. People who bring a child to term are killers. People who terminate a pregnancy are not killers. Abortion is just a man-made miscarriage. That's all it is. So why don't they blame their God for all the miscarriages? Why aren't miscarriages evil? Why is abortion evil but miscarriages are fine? You know, they don't have an argument. They haven't made any kind of logical, rational statement in this entire video. They're in this conservative religious cult. Every politician who runs as a Republican has to be anti-abortion. There is no other way, otherwise they'll kick them out of the party. And same with being Catholic or Christian. Like, my mother was Catholic, but she was pro-choice. But she didn't tell that to other Catholics. There is no ethical problem with what they did. Zero. They obviously did the right thing. I don't understand how you can possibly defend doing otherwise except getting pregnant in the first place is obviously a mistake, but they're not criticizing that. And then they just throw out the statistic that there's so many abortions in the UK. Yeah, it's 300,000 people who didn't need to be here and who didn't need to go to a nursing home.
And then what they say is like, people should have more sympathy for us for losing our child. It's like, no, hang on.
Yeah, you didn't lose it.
You didn't lose it.
You did not lose your child. This wasn't a friggin' miscarriage.
They actually said grieve. Yeah.
grieve for the loss of their child. It's like, well, that would be like killing. Well, it is killing somebody, and then why would you feel bad about it? If you feel that bad about it, you shouldn't do it. But I do think there is an ideological aspect with a lot of this. In gangs, it's quite normal that you would get someone to kill someone because it bloods them into the cult. And I do think that this is a similar thing with this, that once you have gotten a woman to kill her own child, she's in. Like, she will do anything to not confront what she's just done. And that will 100% double down on the ideology. And I can understand why people would think that, well, they're definitely going to support me. Because if you don't support me, now you're admitting that you've done something bad as well. And that mental stress basically makes you one of them forever. And so there are huge areas of people where they will know all this kind of stuff. So in estimated 2024 in the UK, 300,000 abortions in 1 year. When you put that to fertile women, that's going to be most people in the country eventually, just over a period of time. So
no, and then you also have repeat offenders too. That's another thing.
Oh yeah.
The fact of the matter is, they did this for engagement initially. They're videoing this and they're being public about it, which is their choice. That's fine. But then to be public about the result, is another.
In David Benatar's chapter on abortion, the pro-death view, in Better Never to Have Been, he reveals the truth about a 20-week-old embryo. That is not conscious. It doesn't feel pain. It doesn't have a sleep-wake cycle. And in fact, even a child that's been born, that's 9 months old, doesn't have a same sleep-wake cycle and consciousness that an adult has. They're not conscious beings. So I don't have to make the case for why this isn't a tragedy and that when these embryos were aborted. Where is the tragedy? Where is the funeral? Where is the cancer? Where is the heartbreak? I don't see why being public about what they did is terrible. There's no shame in getting an abortion. Only nutters like these people think there's something wrong with aborting an embryo that's going to have Down syndrome. I mean, even if the kid had no probability of getting Down syndrome, the right thing to do is to abort it anyways. We can save that kid a lifetime of harm and suffering. I know you guys who are into antinatalism know this, that there's no excuse for procreation. These murderers are the ones who have groupthink, and they're a bunch of sadistic child murderers.
Fucking evil. It just is. And this is a basic life test that I posted this last night, that you failed miserably. And it shows, like, please don't have any more kids. Like, don't. You're not cut out to be parents if you're not prepared for this stuff, because life is full of peril. Life is full of danger. And what if something happens to your kid later? You're going to get rid of it?
Right.
It's
they deserve to live. They deserve to love. They deserve to have fun. Like, they are great people. I've only ever met awesome people that have this condition.
Look, I have a lot more respect for disabled people than I do for the sick fucks that are like cheering on and defending this type.
Dude, the people that say, like, to normal people, this is a totally normal decision, and if you don't like it, then you're some freak.
Fuck off.
What?
Yes, that's correct. You people who are against what they did are the sick fucks. And again, how many people in this podcast have hung around Down syndrome people on their bad days when they're in a job interview that they're not going to get, or when they're in a classroom and not understanding their algebra, and when people look down on them for being slow and looking weird? Why don't you try living a day in their life and see how much you fucking like it? They have a right to not exist, and not exist as a Down syndrome indigent. What about their rights to choose not to exist? But you guys don't give a shit about that. You just want to force them to live by your silly religious dogma.
Yeah. Well, now TMZ's, I'm looking at the video right now.
He did an interview with TMZ about it.
He did an interview with TMZ, and all the vitriol they got. And like, listen, nobody's for death threats. They shouldn't be getting death threats. But they should definitely be being called out. Shame is a valuable tool that we do not use enough.
You murdered your innocent child, so a couple mean words on the internet, I'm not too worried about it.
Nope.
Be surprised.
Yeah, I agree. We should shame people more, and that's why I made this video. Shame on you for bringing a special needs kid into the world. Shame on all of you for promoting procreation. What right do you have to play God with someone else's life? They're just so off on this that it just blows my mind. The callousness that procreators have. They really don't care about people at all. And of course all these sickos are meat eaters, so they don't even care about any kind of sentient life. They don't understand it. They do love to rape and torture innocent non-humans as long as they get that temporary flavor sensation in their mouth, though.
We did used to. It used to be a regular trope in movies, though. There would be an assassin who just killed anyone he got paid for, and then he'd find a child. He's like, "I'm not doing that," and he would turn against all of his people because that was the one line that people wouldn't confront. And now it's out the window. I don't think they even put that in movies now.
I mean, we've gone past 300 where they, the Spartans just threw him over a cliff. And
this YouTuber Disparu, which means gone in French, and I wish he was gone, but anyway, he really loves these false equivalent logical fallacies. He's comparing assassinating a child to abortion, and the two are not even similar. Again, this is what religious people do, especially Catholics. They keep referring to abortion as killing a child. You're not killing it. 10 to 20% of pregnancies end in miscarriage, i.e. natural abortion. No Christian says, "Oh no, the terrible children who were murdered by God in miscarriages." They don't understand what they're talking about. They're the ones guilty of groupthink, which is so hilarious that this guy is projecting that onto people who do a necessary abortion when the kid is going to come out broken.
I was pissed.
Maybe 10 weeks down the road, they reveal, actually, no, we're still pregnant. We got you. Look at how many people we got to cheer on eugenics. Aren't you people sick fucks? I just don't think that's happening.
Yeah.
And then another false equivalence, comparing aborting a kid who has a 95% chance of having Down syndrome to eugenics. You can't just throw these words around without making an argument here for, that they're the same thing. So yeah, he's calling them Nazis. Nazis for doing the right thing and not bringing a kid who's going to suffer into the world. It's just disgusting. There's not really anything necessarily wrong with wanting to improve the gene pool and get rid of horrible diseases so that no one will be born with them ever again. Eugenics is the idea that we can breed out disease, which is not a negative, that's a positive. Like people with lobster hands, shouldn't be having kids. There should be some kind of law that you can't have a kid, sorry. But then again, I don't think anybody should be allowed to procreate. I think it should be illegal, and you should at least have to get a license to do it. I mean, they're saying that the whole country should be full of Down syndrome people. We should encourage this, and we can all have Down syndrome. Is that what they fucking want? And this is also another thing. Religious people are not the only ones who have this anti-abortion stance. There's also the disabilities rights activists. They're actually for bringing more disabled people into the world, like deaf people. And deaf culture, they want more deaf people because they're selfish and insane, and they only care about having more people like them in the world. It's already illegal for first cousins to marry and have children, so we already have eugenics laws in a way to keep the population healthy. And as Richard Dawkins has said, modern eugenics would be no different than breeding horses for their speed, and only vegans and antinatalists think that it is unethical.
Yeah, I think for the Global Down Syndrome Foundation, we're not pro-choice, we're not pro-life, we're pro-information. But when the government or medical professionals get involved in what we consider a coercive manner, then it's not a choice at all, and it's not proper information at all. When you're being told, like I was told when I was pregnant, that my baby would die by 3 and that I should terminate because the baby's not going to live very long. So to me, that's incorrect, coercive information. And I think the same thing could be happening in Iceland based on the documentary. In Denmark, they called for a Down syndrome-free Denmark by 2030. So this talk is, I think, imbued with eugenics and a lot of terrible kind of manifestations of maybe the 1940s in the US in terms of the eugenics movement. So I think humane people would fight that. And I think what we can't do is just say they're evil, terrible people. What we have to say is we need to educate them and show them what the lifespan is, what the life quality can be.
So you can just see how these people lie. Like she said, she's not pro-life. Obviously, she's pro-life. And she says we shouldn't call people who get abortions evil. But she obviously thinks that it's evil. This woman is joining the pro-life cult because she had a disabled kid. And now she's doing everything she can to justify her decision. Even though we know in the back of her head she knows what she did was wrong and stupid, and she damn well knows it. She mentions what the quality of life can be. Of course, you always have to err on the worst case scenario. You have to think of how bad it can be. That's why the doctors are doing the responsible thing. That's why they're the doctors and you're just an idiot. Interestingly, this Global Down Syndrome Foundation she's a part of is actually the reason why Down syndrome children get adopted more than other mentally disabled or special needs children, because these breeders who have Down syndrome kids, it's usually women who decide to get pregnant later in life, are just so enamored with themselves and what they did that they're compelled to help indigent parents who can't afford to take care of their kids find homes. But unfortunately, like I was talking about earlier, and the DEI thing that liberals love so much, when you're more inclusive, if you find more homes for Down syndrome kids, that might look good on paper, but those are homes that other special needs kids could have had, so they're prioritizing those kids who have that particular disability that they support at the cost of other forms of disability. So they're really not fixing the problem. Obviously, they're being counter to anything sane or decent or rational by saying that medical professionals are wrong and parents should go ahead and have the baby even though there's a high chance it's going to be disabled. So disabled it's not even going to be able to take care of itself. The other person mentioned Spartans, how Spartans would kill children with disabilities as newborns. Of course, those were tough times, and those kids were not going to be useful to their society. They're going to be a burden. And it's going to hurt everyone else in the tribe. They're like the elderly. They use resources, and they don't create resources. However, old people at least have knowledge and useful skills that they can pass on, unlike, a disabled newborn. This is just such a low-class, not well-thought-out position. These people are arguing from their personal experience. They're not arguing from logic.
Ready, set, go!
If I could take away Sophie's Down syndrome with a pill or injection or anything like that, I don't think I would.
You're not finished yet?
Oh! We don't see it as a negative. It's just a part of who she is. So to take the Down syndrome away from Sophie as she is would fundamentally change who she is.
To not terminate was probably one of the easiest decisions that Jamie and I made.
It was an easy decision for us, yeah. I mean, we tried so hard for so long and lost so much on the way to finally becoming pregnant with Sophie that we just thought we'll do everything we can and kind of leave it up to fate.
High five.
Complaining about this is easy. With a regular kid with no problems at all.
What? No surgery?
You get flown to Sydney, no pacemakers, no heart surgery. This is a piece of cake. Brush your teeth.
Big squeeze, big squeeze.
She has battled the odds on more occasions than, any one person should have to. And she's beat them. If that's what living with Down syndrome is, then...
That's badass.
Yeah. Yeah. She's pretty incredible.
They just said it. No kid should have to go through the struggles Down syndrome kids have. Like an increased 50% chance of heart defects. The rate of congenital heart disease in newborns with Down syndrome is around 40%, like the much higher risk of Alzheimer's disease. So this poor little girl had to go through heart surgery, and these sadistic parents said, "Oh yeah, we'd do it again." If they could take their disability away, they wouldn't even do it. And I have to guess that's because they love the attention they get from it. But, look, they wouldn't be interviewed on TV if they didn't have this child with Down syndrome. And when they talk about one reason why they went through with it, even though they were told beforehand the chances of her having Down syndrome, they did it anyways because they couldn't conceive before because they're both morbidly obese. These are two people who couldn't even stop themselves from overeating, and they think that they not only have the right, but they have the ability to take care of a special needs child, and they clearly can't even take care of themselves. And this just shows really how sadistic and evil parents are. And what about when this kid gets older and she has to watch this video, saying that they could, if they could have taken her affliction away, if they could have made her normal, they wouldn't do it. And so this is the attitude of disability rights activists. They, like deaf people, refuse to admit that they're any lesser than a so-called normal person, and it's just cope. It's not logical. It's not rational. Deaf people have a huge disadvantage in life, and Down syndrome people are going to struggle and their parents just don't care. At least the ones who go through with the pregnancy don't.
Since we wear our diagnosis on our face, people tend to have low expectations until they get to fully know us.
What do you think is the most difficult thing for you to do in your daily life?
To find better jobs. Most people doesn't feel like to hire a Down syndrome person.
Transportation. People with Down syndrome tend to rely on their caregivers for transportation. People with Down syndrome have a slower mentality, so I don't want to risk in crashing.
Have you ever been bullied for having Down syndrome?
They usually pick on me and take off my glasses and stomp it and just break it. They are not a very nice people. Shut up or retarded and someone's wearing a hearing aid or wearing glasses with me it's my stomach, and they don't apologize to me. I was trying to be their friends and they didn't go for respect.
That must be heartbreaking. You were trying to be their friend and then they disrespected you like that.
Mm-hmm.
You said you want to have kids, but then there's some things holding you up.
I considered that in freshman year in high school, where you have to do that baby project, and I regretted doing that. It's just too much because the baby would have Down syndrome because of our genetics, including our Down syndrome genetics, passed down to the child, and that'll be the same deficits.
It would be tough for you with limitations to help a child with limitations.
Yes, and then I can't do that without adding strain to my parents.
These clips show how much more thoughtful and decent these people living with Down syndrome are than the sadistic assholes who actually give birth to them or who defend people who give birth to them. He knows that the chance of him having a kid with the same disability would be 100%. And even if the kid didn't have Downs, he knows that he has too many limitations to bring a child into the world and take care of it. They talk about the struggles they have. They're not the struggles of a normal person. Just imagine not being able to get any kind of job and not being able to ever drive a car and being completely dependent on someone else. That's not a way you should want your child to have to live their life. And you can't justify, oh, they're happy all the time. Obviously they're not. And that's just so dismissive of them as people to not think that they have emotions like sadness and fear and regret, just like all of us do. This drawing went fairly smoothly, with the exception being the tinfoil hat. For you artists watching, if you want to challenge yourself, crumple up a piece of tinfoil and try drawing it. It's one of the more challenging things you can practice. I have the child coming from a tree stump because, like most artists, I'm inspired by the things I see, and I had to cut down a bunch of trees in my yard because they were growing over my house, so they're kind of a hazard. The lyrics of the AI-generated song I made for this video has the lyrics, "Keep the ghost within the tree." In other words, just because you have access to a sperm and egg, it doesn't mean that you should use them to create life. I'm obviously using some religious imagery in this drawing with the Christ pose on the child. As I talked about in other videos, being raised as a Catholic, I just can't seem to get away from religious iconography, especially Christian, in my art. Of course, it also gives subtext that most Americans and Europeans will understand. Jesus represents the sacrificial lamb or victim. I called the AI song Holy Sleep, which some atheists might not like because, they don't like any religious references at all, but I can't think of anything more holy, more sacred than undisturbed, peaceful non-existence. This video showed extreme ignorance of the ethics of procreation. They lie by saying they killed their innocent child. What child was harmed? Do they not know that birth also ends in death? They seem to be every sperm is sacred religious nuts. An embryo is not an innocent child. They don't have the capacity to feel pain. They don't have any cherished memories of being alive. It's birth that is murdering an innocent person. They didn't ask to exist, and it in no way benefits them. People like Nerdrotic bring broken people into the world because they like gambling with someone else's money. You don't have the goddamn right. My parents didn't think about my suffering when they had me. They're only thinking about themselves. Nerdrotic said, "Life is full of danger. Life is full of peril. So go have some retarded kids." Go ahead and add more victims and slaves to a world that is already full of them. And it's just someone who should really be staying in his lane and not going into a lane he knows nothing about. He really has not thought about procreation at all. He's using his personal experience to justify imposing harm. And to me, this is just one of the most disgusting videos I've seen in a while, and it's just a perfect example of breeder entitlement. So what Gary from Nerdrotic and these other breeders are guilty of is a logical fallacy called the anecdotal fallacy, or using anecdotal evidence, making an argument from limited personal experience. Sometimes it's the only evidence in a trial, but scientific evidence is always preferable. A single person's experience is not statistically significant and rarely reflects the broader reality. It shows a cognitive bias like Pollyannaism, aka the optimism bias. The mother who was given 50-50 odds that her kid would look like the Elephant Man chose to believe in the 50% chance that he would be fine, rather than accepting the much more significant 50% odds that his face would be filled with incurable tumors. We really need to use objective facts and not subjective wishes when we have control over someone else's life. That's the video. Thank you for watching, and see you next time.
Spare me from the end, the bitter mourning of a friend, the gravity, the entropy, the dead all over living free. Keep the ghost within the tree. Don't wake me from this holy sleep. The silence is a vow I want to keep. Don't give me eyes to watch the beauty rot. Don't give me blood to feel the coming plot. I never asked for bones that break. I never asked for breaths to take. Let me stay here where the pain can't grow. The kindest thing you do is letting go. Don't wake me from this holy sleep. The silence is a vow I want to keep. Don't give me eyes to watch the beauty rot.